Yo, welcome back to Son of a Preacher Man. Soapman is in the house. Six episodes ago, I started talking to you about the story of Adam and Eve. I went on a mission trying to find evidence to support the veracity of this claim. And I must say, we found very compelling evidence that the story is true. I also found the Bible to be an indispensable and valuable resource. It was instrumental in finding out whether this story was true or not. The Bible says that a river ran through the Garden of Eden and that it split into 4 rivers. 2 of the rivers have since dried up, but 2 of the rivers remain, and those rivers are the Tigris and the Euphrates River. So we know we have the right rivers, and we know we're at the right place. There are only 1 Tigris and 1 Euphrates River. So we started off in modern day Iraq. But this happened so long ago, we'd be lucky to find any evidence. I mean, the story of Adam and Eve occurred way back before people were writing, before people were reading. So we really not gonna find like the grave of Adam and Eve, like, or something like here lies Adam and Eve. So our best bet would be to find some type of evidence that occurred long after Adam and Eve existed. So we went back in time. We found the right place. We went back in time to 4000 BC. And this area was known back then as Mesopotamia. And these are all hard facts that really shouldn't be disputed. Just like the Bible says, the Tigris and the Euphrates River merge into one. And we have evidence that there was once 2 other rivers that have since dried up that also merged into this one river along with the Tigris and Euphrates River. Now, we also know by scientific evidence, topographical scans, that the Persian Gulf was once filled in by land. With this fact in mind, that the Persian Gulf was once filled in by land, we can assume that this was where the Garden of Eden once existed. We should not expect to find a Garden of Eden because based on this reliable source that we're using called the Bible, Adam and Eve were exiled or kicked out of the Garden of Eden, and God said that it would never be found. We now know through scientific evidence the how and why Adam and Eve had to leave. Because scientific evidence tells us that this area of the Persian Gulf was rocked by a massive earthquake that destroyed the land, which was subsequently flooded shortly after. Many different kinds of people from all over attempted to come and make a living off of the fertile land off of the Tigris and Euphrates River. The land in and about the Tigris and Euphrates River was very fertile, and a lot of different masses of people came to attempt to scratch out a living there. The people in southern Mesopotamia were known as the Sumerians. And if you can see down here, some of their chief cities were Uruk and Ur. Now let me ask you, where have we heard of the city of Ur before? Was that not the city that Abraham came from? Abraham of the Chaldeans from the city of Ur. So Abraham hailed from the area of Sumer. Not only that, the Bible says that Nimrod, a great and mighty hunter before the Lord, set up his kingdom in Sumer. The Bible states that Noah, from the Noah's Ark story, settled and resided in Sumer. So folks, I hope you starting to see the importance of this area. This is where it all began. If you want to know about the story of Adam and Eve, and you're not going to get it from Adam and Eve, the next best place to look are their neighbors. And Sumer, the area of Sumer and Akkad, would have been northern neighbors to where the Garden of Eden would have been. In past episodes, we've talked a little bit about the Sumerians. I'm not going to bore you to death with this picture. I just want to show you and emphasize how sophisticated these people were. They were the first to do everything, and a lot of what we know today and a lot of how we live today is based off of what they started. They were the first ones to come up with math and take agriculture to a whole new level. They had the first armies. They recorded the first war. I just want to point out in this tapestry real quick, just give me 2 minutes. If you look closely at it, looking at this top row, look from left to right. On the left side, you have the Sumerians, led by a priestly figure who is obviously the king or the high priest. He's the biggest picture on the tapestry. Behind him are his servants, other priestly figures. What they're showing you is their might. Because if you look over here on the right, if you look over here to the right of this king, these are people who have all been conquered. They're coming to pay homage to this king. They're coming to grovel in front of him. They're coming to ask for forgiveness. They're coming to ask for mercy. They're coming to bow down and worship him and his gods. So what I'm trying to show you is that when the Sumerians made these images and made these pictures, they're trying to convey a message over to you. This guy right here, he's clearly a prisoner. He's being hauled off to some dungeon. Look at this dude down here on the ground. He's being killed. How do you know he's being killed? How do you know this guy right here on the ground's being killed? Look at the guy to the left of him. He's standing over him holding a dagger. If you look closely at these images, they're telling, the Sumerians want you to know all about them. They're trying to convey that message over to you. Look at these guys over here. You see armed guards escorting prisoners, slaves, people to be executed. Look at the bottom row. You see a line of chariots, further evidence that the Sumerians used chariots. And we're talking about 3500 BCE. These people are giving you the proof. Hey, look, we use chariots. But look down here, if you can see my arrow. Do you see the bodies under the chariots? The Sumerians in this depiction are letting you know, we killed our enemies, we conquered them, we took them as slaves. The Sumerians want you to know from this image, from this depiction, that they conquered their enemies, they took them as slaves, they slaughtered them, they ruled them. They're showing might. They want you to know they were strong, they were sophisticated, they were advanced, and they every bit were. So, I hope you understand the importance of the area of Sumer and Akkad. They're the next best source. When a crime happens in a community, the police come. If they can't get a hold of the suspects or victims, who do they go to? They go to the neighbors. It's the logical thing to do. When we talk to the people of Sumer, they have a lot to say about the story of Adam. In fact, they're very familiar with it. Turns out the story of Adam comes from them. Please understand this because it is very important. Another reason why the Sumerians and what they have to say is so important is because they predate the Bible by hundreds of years. It wasn't until hundreds of years after the Sumerians were long and gone forever that authors first start writing the books of the Bible. So if you look at this image, it's a clay tablet. I think it's an image of Adam and Eve. Here's a better recreation of it. What you see is a man sitting on the right And this man on the right is obviously a ruler. He is obviously a king, evidenced by the bullhorn cap that he's wearing. This is meant to let you know this is the man in charge. Opposite him on the left is a female. Between the two is a fruit-bearing tree, and behind the woman, a serpent slithers up behind her. Folks, it's like I said earlier, Sumerians were not a people who just had time to paint random portraits and photos of their imagination. This is meant to convey something. They're telling a story. Before they started writing, this is how they communicated, through artwork and imagery. And what this image is depicting is the Adam and Eve story. What I need you to know about these people, other than how advanced they were, and they're considered the first to do just about everything, is that everything with the Sumerians revolved around the gods that they worshipped. Everything, every aspect of their life, when they went to war, when they woke up, when they slept, and all the time in between, all of their writings had to do with the many gods that they worshiped. These were a very spiritual people who believed in, who full-throated, wholeheartedly, 2 feet in, believed in the many deities that they believed in. And they also were one of the first to establish an organized, understandable pantheon of gods and a religion that almost everybody in and out through Mesopotamia copied and mimicked what they believed because they were so successful. One last thing. At the center of this civilization was their belief in the many gods they worshipped. And the many gods that the Sumerians worshipped were directly connected to their study of the stars. It was like an obsession to these people. Their study of the stars and the gods that they worshipped went hand in hand. Okay, so this is the Sumerian king list. We talked about this a little bit in the last couple episodes, and it's really the crux of my argument. The Sumerian king list is a 4-sided cube stone or pillar. On the Sumerian king list is a recorded history of the kings of Sumer, starting from first, going down through hundreds of kings, and it's very elaborate and detailed, like it's the truth. The problem is the Sumerians mixed a lot of mythology with truth, which makes a lot of their stories legend instead of accurate biographies. It's the reason you get talking snakes in the story of Adam and Eve. It's the reason you get Adam being risen up from the dirt like a clay puppet and then coming to life. Even though the story of Adam and Eve may have been true, the Sumerians, that culture had a habit of mixing magic and mythology and really exaggerating the characters and the circumstances in the stories they told. They did it all the time. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, in the Epic of Enmerkar, the Sumerians were consistent with having talking animals, many gods, and a lot of mythological fantasy type creatures and characters. On the other hand, a lot of what they said was very accurate and can be time-stamped and dated and verified. So it's hard to get the truth, to see where the line is between fact and fiction with the Sumerians. Now, this Sumerian king list, we couldn't read it for a long time when we had it in our possession, and it's amazing to me that we sat on this information for so long. What it said was that it had a list of the Sumerian kings, starting with this guy Alulim. It says Alulim, and it has the city that he ruled from, which was Eridu, and it had the reign of his years, 28,800 years. And you go down the line, all of these kings or rulers lived for extraordinarily long periods of time. Alaugar reigned 36,000 years. Enmenluana reigned 43,200 years. The next one, 28,800 years, 36,000 years. All in total, these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. These 8 reigned for 241,200 years. The Sumerians are making a very big claim. The Sumerians are saying our rulers ruled prior to the flood, and they lived just above where the Garden of Eden was. And when Adam got kicked out of the Garden of Eden, he had to go somewhere. What's the point that I'm trying to make? Well, in my last video, we talked about the similarities between the Sumerian king list and the holy line of Adam and Eve. Yes, the Bible gives a very detailed account of Adam and his descendants, and the Sumerians give a very detailed account of their kings. So we talked about this in my last episode, how there were many similarities between the holy line of Adam and this list of Sumerian kings. For example, the 7th king on the Sumerian king list, Enmenduranki. There are legends, Babylonian legends, Sumerian legends, Assyrian legends, that he was taken up into heaven with God and shown many great things. It was also said that he was a diviner, a great ruler, and a great wise man. Consequently, Enoch has a very similar story, and he's the 7th in line from Adam, if you start with Adam. And everybody knows, anybody who's read the Bible knows the story of Enoch. He gets taken into heaven. He never dies. He is taken by God. And he's shown all these great things in heaven. It's the exact same story. If that's not enough for you, if you go down to the 10th king on the Sumerian king list, his name is Ziusudra. He coincides with the 10th descendant of Adam, Noah. Both of them survive a great flood. Both of them survive the flood along with their immediate families. Both Ziusudra and Noah both survive a great flood where everyone on the planet is wiped out except for their family. Numerous similar components out of these two lines. And there are a lot of people who are convinced that both lines are in fact the same. The problem with both experts and layman folk like myself, the problem with both of us alike are these numbers, these lengths of years. I was talking to my mother about this yesterday. Despite all the similarities I showed her, the big hump that she couldn't get over is these lengths of reign on the Sumerian king list. It's initially what I couldn't get over. It's what the experts can't get over. This is a serious problem. These accurate, ancient, sophisticated people are making a claim. It's a pill too big to swallow. People do not live for 28,000 years, 36,000 years, 43. It is impossible by any stretch of the imagination. Imagine trying to wrap your head around Adam living 930 years. That is hard enough. And then you expect somebody to swallow the pill that Alulim lived 28,000 years. Even though we talked about this in my last episode, we found a lot of similarities between the Sumerian king list and Adam, with Enmenduranki, like for example, Enmenduranki matching Enoch and Ziusudra matching Noah. Even though that's all fine and dandy, it's not Enoch and Noah who we're looking for. We're looking for Adam and Adam alone. So if we're finding people that match up on both sides, then logic would tell us that Alulim is Adam. So let's hone in on Alulim and see what we can find out about him. If you just do a quick Google search, it says, according to a later Mesopotamian tradition enshrined in the Sumerian king list, the first king was Alulim, ruler of the city of Eridu. After the kingship descended from heaven, the kingship was in Eridu. In Eridu, Alulim became king. He ruled for 28,800 years. Alaugar ruled for 36,000 years. Two kings. They ruled for 64,800 years. So what the Sumerians are saying is, they say, when kingship descended from heaven. Now, why are they saying that? Well, I told you the Sumerians were all about their belief in their many gods. And what they believed was that the sky gods ruled from heaven, and that kingship, or the right to rule, came down to earth to man. The Sumerians believed that man was given the right to rule, gifted, a divine right gifted to them by the gods in heaven. So that's why they're saying when rule descended from heaven to earth. It says, after the kingship descended from heaven, the kingship was in Eridu. Eridu was the first city established in the land of Sumer. And the Sumerians are saying that the first king, the first ruler, was Alulim. So understand what the Sumerians are saying. If I'm right, if the holy line of Adam and the Sumerian king list are one, what the Sumerians are saying is Adam was not the first man, like many modern day people believe, but he was the first king. He was the first ruler. They're not just saying he was the first ruler of Sumer. They're saying he was the first ruler on planet Earth. No matter how much evidence we gather, no matter how many legitimate comparisons we make, we still cannot get over the hump of these numbers. If Adam is Alulim, then why are the Sumerians saying he lived for 28,800 years, or 8 SARs? So naturally, people have played with the numbers. Experts have played with the numbers. Non-experts have played with the numbers. I have played with the numbers. So people and experts and non-experts alike have been playing with these numbers for decades, trying to figure it out. I am no different, though I didn't play with them for decades. I played with the numbers and then left it alone, played with them, left it alone. And then this last time that I decided to play with the numbers, I just took a different approach. I knew the Sumerians were obsessed with studying the stars and the movement of celestial bodies. It was their reason for everything. It was the reason for their success. It was their reason for their religion. Everything piggybacked and was based off of their obsession with the cosmos. So I knew that the Sumerians were probably using some kind of numerical system or time system that I wasn't familiar with. But what if, with these large numbers, what if the Sumerians, who were known for being very accurate in other aspects, extremely reliable and accurate with their measurements? You know, we talked about how they built these great temples of worship that we call ziggurats. These were accurately designed and engineered temples in the desert. Okay, so we know these people were sophisticated in geometry, arithmetic. How could they be so off about the length of these men's reigns, or the reigns of these rulers? But I said to myself, what if we misinterpreted what they were saying? Is it not reasonable to think that we may make some errors, trying to decipher something that somebody wrote 6,000 years ago, we should almost be expected to make errors. But what if we were making errors in these calculations? What if the Sumerians were not talking about years? What if they were talking about months? What if they were talking about days? I started playing around with the numbers. And let's take Adam, for example. The Bible says Adam lived to be 930 years old. Alulim of the Sumerian king list is said to have lived 28,800 years. But if you divide 28,800 by the number of days in a month, so why the 0.95? Because in some days there are 31 days in the month. And the Sumerians would have known this. They studied the movement of celestial bodies. Their time would have been accurate from year to year. So I knew the answer was between 30 and 31. So I divided by 30.95, and that's not the only number, 30.94 or 30.93, 30.89 I think works. You divide 28,800 by approximately 30, by 30 and some change, and you come out with the exact number of years that the Bible says Adam lived. It's a perfect match. So maybe that's not enough evidence for you. Let's go to Seth. Okay, so the Bible says Seth lives to be 912. Opposite Seth is Alaugar. If we're right, if these two lines are the same, Alaugar is Seth. And opposite Seth, corresponding to Seth, is Alaugar. Alaugar lived to be, or he reigned for 36,000 years. So when we take Alaugar reigned for 36,000 years, when we take the years that Alaugar reigned and divide it by 30.95, like we did Alulim, we don't come out to 912. So that's not a match. Don't get discouraged, because if you just simply add 9 to 30.95, you get 39.95. Now divide Alaugar's reign of 36,000 years by this new number, 39.45, because 39.95 was too high. But if you just add approximately 9, a lot of these calculations are approximations. And I must be honest with you, I do not know why you have to add 9. But when you do, when you divide 36,000 by 39.45, you get the exact number of the number of years that Seth lived. And Alaugar matches Seth. Let's look at Enosh, or Enos. He's the third person in the line of Adam. And the corresponding Sumerian king would be Kidunu. Now the names on the Sumerian king list are different depending on who's doing the recording, because there are different recordings of the list by many different people. If you see here, the third person on the list is Enmenluana. Enmenluana corresponds to Enos, or Enosh, and he's said to have lived for 43,200 years. Now, if you divide 43,200 by what you divided Seth's reign by, you don't get the right number. We're looking for a length of years of 905 years. So we're not proving that Enos is Enmenluana, dividing by what we use to prove Alaugar was Seth. But just like how you went from Adam to Seth, you added 9 to get the right divisor. You do the same thing with Enos. We use 30.95 to figure out Alulim's reign matched Adam's. We added 9 to 30.95 or approximately 9. And we got 39.45. And we use that to prove that Alaugar matches Seth. Now we add approximately 9 more to 39.45 and we get 48, but a little less than 48. If you divide Inmin Luana's reign, the years of his reign, which are 43,200, by 47.7, you get 905, which is exactly the number of years Enos lived. Folks, I think the proof is in the pudding. And I guarantee you have not heard this from anywhere else. I guarantee you no one else but the Soapman has cracked this code. No one else anywhere has suggested this, has come up with this. You will not find it. You will not hear this anywhere else. I'm not taking credit for anything but the number calculations. All the other information I learned from other people. But this is my contribution. This is the proof that the holy line of Adam is synonymous with the rulers of the Sumerian king list. This is the smoking gun, and you won't find a bigger bang anywhere else. You won't find a smoking gun like this anywhere else. I am the first to suggest this. Scout's honor. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for joining me for this episode of Soapman, son of a preacher man. If you got any comments, likes, dislikes, insults, leave them in the comment section. If you got any compliments, big ups, thumbs ups, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. If you got anything you want me to talk about or just want to chop it up and argue with me about nothing for no reason, leave it in the comment section. I see you. Same soap time, same soap channel. Soapman, out.